Yo, and we back.
Yes.
Episode 2. Y'all excited?
Another one.
I'm excited. I'm super excited. Mainly, I am in my life. A period. Well, it's an ever flowing period, but it's a period where I am in my life. Today we're going to be talking about childhood trauma, realization, and healing, and we'll also be talking about finding yourself.
Yeah.
I hope you checked out the first episode. We talked about toxic masculinity and femininity, as well as the topic people should stop defining what a real woman or a real man is based on their own perspective, because it is subjective at the same time.
100%. Childhood trauma is very near and dear to me, because I grew up in foster care. I know there's tons of other people who did the same. I mean, there's people, because I'm always thinking, like, there's always a worse scenario.
Absolutely.
There are kids who didn't even get that, so in retrospect, I was grateful. But, going through the times, it definitely was tough. And even people who grew up with their families and still had to go through these things, it sucks. But, we can definitely control our future, and we don't have to go back and really worry about the past. So I'm definitely excited about this one.
Same, man. I feel like childhood trauma plays a big role in everybody's life in some sense. Some people's more than others. Some people childhood trauma is not going to be as severe as others. But I think it's important to recognize that it does happen to all of us in a sense. I mean, honestly, childhood trauma could actually be something in the sense of you losing a grandparent at a young age. That's traumatic for somebody that's small. Oh, yeah. That's actually a personal experience that I have, and I'll get into that here in just a second. But I want you guys, when we say childhood trauma, I don't want you guys to just immediately think of the worst absolute thing you can think of. Obviously, there are things like that do happen, and we won't get into those in details, but you guys know the types of things that I'm talking about. So I want you to understand that it's not just things like that. Death can be traumatic. Car wrecks can be traumatic. Fires can be traumatic. All kinds of things. So I want you to keep those things in mind while we're talking about this, because I don't want it to just be focusing on all of the other super negative things that we can experience as children, and some of us have personally experienced as children. I'm not interested in bringing up and opening up old wounds for people, but I am interested in bringing up the topic so that we can try to work through these things and help you guys find ways to sort out your issues and what you're dealing with, and find yourself ultimately.
Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about today.
I mean, even though, we're talking about this now, I know that with the mom movement, you have resources available.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can actually find Mom on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It is Mental on My Mind. What we do is we actually provide resource information to individuals who are looking for help. So if you're looking to find a therapist, if you're looking to talk to someone, if you're looking to find ways to cope, we provide you resources and information to help you get started and to help you get going. I actually get inboxes from people all the time asking for directive, and I do appreciate those that utilize that page and that forum. That is exactly what Mom is all about. It's about making sure you get what you need, just like your mom would do. Absolutely. Your mom will take care of you, and that's what I do. I'm a mom of many. I'm taking care of a lot of people. I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
For sure.
Before we get into it, I just got to go ahead and do this since we're talking about Mom. I did write a book.
Oh, my God.
I did write a book. It's entitled Focus the Wake Up. Yep. It is available on Amazon right now.
Go get it.
Go get you a copy. You can get a physical copy or an ebook. The ebooks are $9.99 and the physical copies are $14.99. Go get that. Go support your girl. I definitely appreciate everybody that's bought already, everybody that's commented, posted pictures. Y'all have made my life. And everybody that's getting ready to purchase, I appreciate y'all in advance, because y'all finna make my life. Man, we finna sell millions out here. I ain't playing.
Why not take a look into the mind that is bringing you this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of wisdom in there. Some, ingrained early. Some just comes down from the heavens here.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you get it.
Absolutely. Hey, honestly, my whole life I've been trying to sort that all out. I just try to stay focused, and the rest will follow.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're not going to hold you guys too long. Childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and jump it off. Like I said a few minutes ago, I actually experienced a death at an early age. My grandfather passed away when I was 8 years old. He actually passed away 2 weeks before my 9th birthday, on November 11th in the year of 2000. I will never forget it. Being that young and experiencing death was different. I'm not going to necessarily say hard, but for me, it was just different. I had never experienced a loss. So for one, it was understanding that he wasn't coming back here physically ever. It was also making peace with the fact that I would never be able to talk to him. And at 8, saying that and understanding that is different.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot for me to wrap my mind around death.
Yeah.
And so I was having what I was calling nightmares when I was young, because I would dream about my grandfather all the time, and I couldn't sleep, and it made me fear death. And I would always close my eyes and see caskets, and that's traumatic for I'm a kid. I'm 8, almost 9, and I think that made me fear anybody else close to me dying.
Right.
Like I fear my grandmother died, rest her soul. She passed in 2018 and I was an adult. And that actually trickled into my adulthood because I was a child when my grandfather passed, and that was a close loss. And I didn't have another huge close loss to me like that, like a parent or a grandparent, until I was grown. And so the next time I experienced death to that capacity, it was my grandmother. And so I found myself falling back into that little girl. Like I remember the feeling so vividly right now, even talking about it. Like I ain't gonna curse, but I'm dang near getting chills because I remember that moment so vividly, like feeling like a child when I got the news that my grandmother passed. And it was in that moment that I realized I don't know how to handle death as an adult.
Yeah.
That's traumatic.
Yes. Wow. I didn't even think of that.
So I said that because I want people to understand how a traumatic experience like that can affect you well beyond childhood. I became an adult and I struggled to grieve because I didn't understand how to navigate in the world as an adult and grieve. Because mind you, as a child, I was able to miss school. I was able to be around my family and friends all the time. Well, not friends, but I was able to be around my family all the time. And I'll probably say friends because my cousins were my friends growing up. So, yeah, I'll say that. Family and friends all the time. I was used to being in environments like that where I could cope and we could talk about, the memories and the good times and all of that stuff. And I had no worries. The only thing that I had to worry about was school. And for the most part, they were understanding. Yeah. And not to brag, but I was at the top of my class majority of schoolhood, so there was never an issue with grades. If they gave me the work, I could do it, and then I would go back to playing or coping is what I understand it as now. Because I spent a lot of time with my cousins and with my brother, just reminiscing on my grandfather. And so when it happened to me as an adult, when my grandmother passed, it was like, well, you still got to go to work. Wow. I took off for they gave me like 2-3 days, and I thought that was bizarre as hell. Excuse me, I said I wasn't gonna curse, but hell is not that bad. But yeah, I thought that was bizarre as hell because I'm like, man, this is like my mother. Like this is like a second mom to me. My grandmother was very close to me, and so she was like a mom in my eyes. She took care of me when my mom was always working. So to me, this loss was closer than a 3-day grieving period. And it's like when I went back to work, they weren't trying to hear that grieving stuff. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to be here, you need to be working. 100%. If you got to cry, well, you need to go ahead and get off the clock. But it's like, okay, well, who's going to pay my bills, though? Because bills still going to happen and stress still going to happen. And, it led, basically that led to me taking a leave of absence from work. I actually took a 3-month leave of absence because I had to learn how to deal with grief. And it was hard.
Did you have to do that on your own?
I had to do that on my own. Thankfully, my wife, she was my fiance at the time still, but she was there and she was very supportive and she was very, she did what a spouse is supposed to do. She was very patient and understanding. And I struggled to grieve because I was angry. I was frustrated. I was sad. I was hurt. I felt a lot of different emotions.
Right.
And that was hard. It was really, really hard. And I don't think that's talked about enough. I went through a period where I didn't recognize myself. I went through a period where I saw the little child in me who was begging for something, like whether it be attention or, just not really understanding how to really grieve and just harboring anger and harboring sadness and just being depressed and negative all the time. That was not me, but in those moments, that's who I was.
Right. Absolutely.
So I think it's important to deal with your traumas and understand how to deal with grief. Now, thankfully, that actually led me into a journey of self-discovery. It actually helped me find myself. Here we are, 4 years later, and I'm like, I understand death in a way that I never have.
Right.
I understand how to grieve and how to cope, and it took me to deal with my traumas to actually find myself. And it actually opened the door for me to not only deal with this trauma, but many traumas. And it actually helped me figure out who I wasn't.
Yeah.
And now I know who I am.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting outlook. I like how you said that. Wow.
Yeah. Listen, man, I got so many little traumas I can talk about. I'm not going to hog the mic, man.
No, for sure. Like, this is very interesting. And your take on it, especially, with family, my story is a lot different, but, this is important because, like you're saying, to know what you're not is huge, as far as the effort, it is to learn who you actually are. Sometimes you go through life, all these things that are happening to you that you can't control are changing you subtly.
Exactly.
Very, very small changes. So, just in terms of how you behave, me, when my mom passed a few years ago, I didn't know I couldn't cry. I wanted to.
Right.
And I felt bad because I didn't cry. And so now I'm just sitting at home like, am I a horrible person?
Right. It makes you question some things, man.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's also needed.
Yeah.
I think when they say things like everything happens for a reason, as cliche as that sounds, I understand it.
Yeah.
When my grandmother passed in 2018, I was hurt. I was sad. I had literally saw her 10 days before that. And it's crazy because I remember driving in a car and I remember telling Chaz, I need to see my granny. I was actually going home to see my cousin for her birthday because my granny and my cousin's birthday is 4 days apart. My granny's birthday is on the 3rd. My cousin's is on the 7th. And I went to see my cousin for her birthday and I had to pass through Longview to get to Shreveport. And my grandmother stayed right off the interstate. And so I said to myself, I'm not stopping to see nobody. I'm going straight to Shreveport and straight back because I didn't come here. The drive was not to come to Longview. It was to go to Shreveport. But when I say in my spirit, it was so heavy, you need to go see your granny. I said, you know what? I'm going to see my granny. And so I told my cousin, listen, we're going to be late. We're going to be 2 hours late. And so we were. We stopped. We spent 2 hours with my granny. My wife bought her a Snickers. That's what she wanted for her birthday. She said, give me a Snickers and give me a peanut patty and give me a Dr. Pepper. We couldn't find the peanut patty, but we got her a Snickers and we bought that Dr. Pepper. That's what she wanted. And she said, give me a little piece of money. And she said to my wife, and I don't want no lipstick. Y'all know my granny, she did not wear makeup. She was your old school Kojic granny, stocking wearing, long dress, no earrings, no woman in the pool pit type of living. Man. That's where I come from.
Look
y'all.
At you crazy for wearing
That's
jeans.
what she tell me, don't come in her house with no britches on. That's what she used to say. But no, like that day though, we visited her, we fellowshipped. It was great. She kissed us, she loved on us, she was in great spirits. She had just turned 75.
Wow.
She passed away 10 days later on the 17th. And I thank God that I'm so in tune with spirit.
Yeah.
And when I felt that unction to go see my grandmother, I went. Yeah. And now I have no regrets.
Absolutely.
But I also feel like her death helped me find myself. And so I see the beauty in her death.
Yeah.
Her death allowed me to discover life.
Yeah.
Her death allowed me to discover myself. And so I don't look at her death as a loss. I look at it as a blessing in disguise. She lived her life. She was 75.
Yeah, for sure.
My granny was ready to go when her husband passed in the year 2000. She lived 18 more years.
Yeah.
And she vocally let us know she was ready to go. Whenever God took her, do not resuscitate her. She was vocal about that. So I thank God for the extra years I got with her, because she groomed me in a lot of ways. And I see a lot of her and me in a lot of ways, not even just physically, because I see her all over my face now, but even just how she acts and a lot of the things she taught me, and the love. My grandmother was so loving when it came to me. She used to always kiss me and hug me and just be kind to me, and that's how I am. I'm the same way because of her. She showed me that loving aspect, and I'm grateful because I didn't always get that as a kid. And just like you said, those emotions, those things that you lack, you tend to show to other people. And so I'm a super loving person. I love to hug. I love to kiss. I love to love.
Yeah.
I'm love. Yeah. I feel like I'm love. I know that I'm love. I know that I'm love. And so I walk around with the intent to spread it.
Wow. See, my trauma, and that's pretty much probably the first time I've talked openly about it. My childhood trauma was every time I would get somewhere and feel like, that's where I was supposed to be, I had to move. Yeah. Every time. And so basically, even like my childhood, the way it started, it was like I woke up one day and I was like 9 years old.
Man.
Like, I have no clue what happened before that. And I think that's kind of crazy. I don't know if it could be anything. It could have been like, trauma that like I repressed that kept me from remembering this stuff.
Absolutely.
It could have been anything, but I already knew, like, even the day that I remember, the first day that I remember, I was homeless picking up cans with this lady who I thought was my mother.
Wow.
Okay? That's my first memory. All right. And I'm from Dallas. I was at Fair Park picking up cans. It wasn't like fair time. Fairgrounds were empty and everything. But I'll get into all that later. But as I entered the foster care system, or even the orphanage that I went to, and I do plan on doing something with those kids. Like I have to, because it's a lot. I already know what these kids are in for.
I understand, man.
Yeah. So, with that, from the shelter, 10 years old to 7 different foster homes in 7 years. So we're talking about pre-cell phone. Well, not pre-cell phone, but cell phones weren't hot. Cell phones were nothing. You had to be rich to have a cell phone back then.
Yeah.
And I was a kid, and every time I would get to a foster home, I would go to school and I'd make friends and I'd make neighborhood friends. And then all of a sudden, one day, I had to move. You didn't get anybody's phone numbers. You know what I mean? Back when long distance actually cost money to call out.
I remember that. You better not call long distance on my line. My granny used to say that.
charges up the yin yang. But it happened 6 times. Okay. Wow. And even to the effect of, I left Dallas, went to DeSoto, and then went back to Dallas. And I was just like, I have no control over my life. And that spilled over into other things. Like, whenever you feel like you don't have anything to lose or you don't have any control, you really do start to act out.
Right.
I didn't even notice I was acting out. Subtle changes changed me as a person. I started doing crazy things. Like I said, I'll get into all that later. But the biggest thing was, after all that time, in foster care, I didn't know my real mom. So when I got out and I grew up, it was 2015 when I actually reconnected with my mother. And what's that, 7 years ago? Jesus Christ.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like 25, you know, and 2 years later, she passes.
Wow.
And so like it was a repeat. Everything I had, I either got taken away from it or it got taken away from me.
Yeah. See?
So, you know, just that, you know, and I think that's what kind of contributed to me not being able to cry, because I was just so hard from it being, you know, happening all the time anyway.
Right.
So, you know, that you know, when I experienced that, I had to take time out to really see myself in the considerable damage that I had to undo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And see, I like how you said that. The considerable damage that you had to undo. That goes along with the healing process. You have to recognize that there's a problem of some sort. And then once you recognize it, you have to want to do something about it. Because I can simply observe that I have a problem.
Yeah.
And I can let it continue to be a problem. Or I can observe that I have a problem and I can do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I'm big on the phrase, change your mind, change your life. I did not like the way the traumas that I experienced were affecting me in adulthood. On top of the fact that I have a wife that is very vocal. So if she don't like something about something that I do and she calls it out, I'm going to listen. See, I haven't had a lot of people call me out on things, and she gonna do it. And that's what I love about her, honestly, truly.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about her, because she will tell me about myself when I'm not right.
Right.
And I don't like it, but I love it, because
Right.
it's like, yo, well, T, you need to check yourself, because she ain't wrong. Where is that coming from? Where does that stem from? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you feeling like that? And that's me checking my ego. See, I'm at the point in my life where I check my ego. I'm checking my ego to the point where I'm trying to kill my ego. My ego has no place here, because if I let my ego take over and make decisions, I'm not living. I might lose y'all there.
You're making emotional decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I am making decisions with my emotions, and I'm trying to come from a place where I don't do that. So in order to do that, I have to tone down my ego.
Yeah.
I'm trying to kill it though, because when I kill it, then I can come from a place, from a place higher up.
Yeah.
Now I can come from soul or higher self, or
Yeah.
from a God conscious or a Christ conscious, or whatever you want to call it. We all see things differently. I think it's important for us to recognize that we have a problem and then try to heal. That actually comes into play when you take time to spend time with yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You got to get to know yourself. I think a lot of the reasons why we don't recognize our traumas is because we don't spend time alone.
Or even in silence.
Yeah, bingo.
Yeah.
I'm a stickler for silence. I like to sit in silence. I like to sleep in silence. Silence is the song of my soul. It loves silence because I can think. I can sort my thoughts out. I'm actually, and this is going to play into the self-aware topic, and I'll dig a little further later, but I'm actually at the point where I observe my thoughts. I don't judge them, or I try not to judge them. I simply observe them. And if I recognize something that is not like myself, I immediately say, well, where does that stem from? And once I recognize where it stems from, I try to make a conscious effort and decision to make sure I don't move backwards.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes to make sure I ain't having those kinds of thoughts. Because I'm a firm believer in whatever you think, you become. So if I think that I'm XYZ, I become that. I think I'm a millionaire every day.
Yeah.
I think that I'm the best-selling author every day. I think I'm going to make $1 million every day.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. If I think something negatively, it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that firmly. So I try to be conscious about how I think.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you have to know who you are and what you want.
Yeah.
If you don't know those things, then your work can get very chaotic.
Absolutely. You know,
Very chaotic.
after all these, you know, after all your traumas that you have been through, how does that fit into you finding yourself and, you know, you actually having that control over what you become in the future? Because now you've dealt with your past, you've accepted your past, and now, you know, now that you're hearing and focusing on those things that try to interfere or try to insert themselves that don't belong there, and you're dismissing them, how do you transform into your, you know, and to who you want to be.
All right, so I ain't got long. I'm going to wrap this up real quick. So the way I see it is I make a conscious decision every day to be a better me.
Yeah.
Every day. I'm not going to say that every day I am a better me, because I'm not. Some days I go backwards. Some days I have to check myself. But I tell myself every day, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel things. But what is not okay is to react.
Yeah.
And I'm at that point in my life where I'm allowing myself to feel things and observe things, but I'm making the conscious decision every day to not react. That plays into self-control.
Yeah.
I'm finding out that I have more self-control than I knew I did.
Yeah.
But it all boils down to me making that conscious decision every day to be a better me.
Yeah.
Every day to evolve. If I choose not to, then I'm going to go backwards, because I'm going to start allowing thoughts to come in that are not my own.
Yeah.
And then that's going to shift my perspective. It's going to shift my goals. It's going to shift my motive. And ultimately, I'm not going to be happy, because that's simply not me.
Absolutely.
So it's important to deal with your traumas so that it does not cause issues in your adulthood. And it's important to find yourself so that you're not becoming someone you simply do not recognize.
Absolutely.
That's all I got, man.
Yeah.
That's all I got right
this
there.
is the Flight Podcast. And
Flight, man.
I mean, this is very important to us. I mean, obviously.
Right.
But it's beyond that. It should be important to you, because this is a way of stopping time and putting yourself in a position where you can deal with things. It puts you in a thought process, and it gets you to really finding out who you want to be, and then focusing on that.
Absolutely.
And actually getting there. You got to shut the door on a lot of things that try to creep back in, because after you've made peace with who you were, now it's time you can become who you want to be.
Absolutely. And just like you said, FLIGHT stands for fight like it's going to happen today. That's exactly why we're putting this information out there, because we want you guys to do whatever it takes to make it happen for yourself today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Make a conscious decision today to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time. Catch us
Peace.
on FLIGHT.